back in 2021, when Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were on sort of a massive price tear, the amount of Bitcoin I had on Coinbase was getting big enough that I wanted to diversify, as in it just felt I was getting uncomfortable with the amount of Bitcoin I had just sitting there on a centralized exchange and all of the exchanges. And initially I decided I was going to diversify as far as who was the custodian, meaning who was actually holding my Bitcoin, to Gemini. And the reason I chose those two was that they were both US based. Their founders were both from the United States. They were both US citizens, and both were very, rather than sort of fly by night and cut corners, both of them were very much in the let's do things right, let's follow the rules, let's be compliant from a regulatory perspective to the highest degree possible, and all of that. So I ended up with my Bitcoin mostly between Coinbase and Gemini. Again, which in retrospect is ridiculous, but it should have all been on something like Bitkey, but Bitkey did not exist back then. It was not invented and released until earlier this year. So the options for storing Bitcoin off of a cryptocurrency exchange were much more complicated and convoluted in the past than they are now. Ultimately, I decided I should diversify even further to a third cryptocurrency exchange. So at the time, FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, who's now in prison for I think 25 years, Sam Bankman-Fried had started FTX, and it was the absolute darling of the industry. My original plan was to transfer about 1/3 to 1/2 of my Bitcoin to some other exchange. And if I had an amazing experience with FTX and if it seemed rock solid, it would have been that likely exchange to diversify across, which in retrospect would have been an extraordinarily costly mistake. But anyway, so ultimately it was just too buggy. Like, it was just the way the debit card worked. You couldn't use the mobile app. You had to use their website login, but the website login was sort of buggy. The app was kind of buggy. It did not instill confidence. And in retrospect, I'm very thankful that it did not, because there was just too many red flags. The whole fact that it was offshore, the fact that I could not sign up for FTX.com, it had to be FTX.us, the fact that that platform was sort of buggy, the fact that their whole founding team was in the Bahamas rather than the United States. The whole thing just didn't feel right. So ultimately, all I ever ended up with on FTX was about, I think, $1,700. I think I moved, $2,000 over that I was going to use with their debit card, and then I spent like $300 of it before they blew up and went bankrupt. So it turns out I actually will get that $1,700 back. The problem is that the $1,700 back in 2022 was in Bitcoin. And the way US bankruptcy law works is they are only required to give you back the US dollar value of the assets at the time of the bankruptcy.